Good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone out there. We got a 10.4 update. Basically, I want to go through real quick what 10.3 did, a few things built off of that, and then talk about the two major things about a 10.4, a fan-out replication, the image level agent enhancements. Again, as Max pointed out, any questions you have, feel free to put them in the Q&A functionality or the chat. Love answering all the questions that come up. So go ahead. Let's get started. So November, in our 10.3 release, one of our later 10.3 releases, we came out with Windows image level protection. What this did, this enabled through an agent at the OS level to take image level backups. So basically we take a snapshot from within an operating system. This could be a physical server, this could be a virtual machine, whatever it might be. The nice thing is it's not relying on a static connection. It can be done through a WAN backup. It uses a client-side deduplication, and basically all the features that you have with a VM snapshot can be used with this. You can spin it up in another hypervisor or even use it as a bare metal image. Some limitations, it's Windows 2008 R2 and more recent, and it's 64-bit exclusive. Good advantage is that its backup performance is independent of the file count. And that last point I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Also came out with long-term data management. Basically means we can do a modified grandfather, father, son right from within the interface. So you can keep long-term backups right from within your Unitrends appliance. So you can keep monthlies or keep yearlies or keep weeklies rather than first in, first out. The choice is yours, what you want to do. But we provide the option, and you can even control whether or not your source or your target keeps this level of long-term data management. So it's really cool. LTDR, long-term data retention, and you can go ahead and it's available for everyone that's updated to 10.3. 10.4 came out, I think early this month or late last month, I think in January. Two major features. The first feature was fan-out replication. Now what we can do is multiple hot backup copy targets can be selected to replicate to from a single source. For example, as I've pictured over on the right side, here in my primary location, I've got a Unitrends appliance. I can replicate that to the Unitrends Forever Cloud for long-term retention. And if I want to do disaster recovery at a secondary data center, I can do that as well. So you can deploy, send it either way, and do both of them. So instead of replicating just a single target like before, you can now replicate to both of them. Nice thing is that we updated our reporting and dashboards to make management and monitoring just as simple as it was before with sending to a single target. One big thing to note is that due to customer feedback, the customer experience, and what we've been seeing in terms of supporting and performance, future deployments will not support cross-replication. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to change anything when you update today. So if you have 10.3, you're doing cross-replication today, not a problem. If you add in, you upgrade to 10.4, it'll keep that. The big difference will be is if you have a new deployment or something like that, but all future deployments, we are looking to keep the Unitrends appliances no longer doing multiple roles. We will have them serve as a replication target or as a replication source, and we can make sure to size that out appropriately. If you have any questions about that, I'd love to see those put into the chat or Q&A functionality. This is also available, this fan-out replication is available with the Unitrends backup software, the virtual appliance, or the Unitrends physical appliance, any version. Awesome. And then the last piece that we really need to go over is the enhanced image level protection. When we released 10.3, we did VSS copy. Now, using the VSS aware, we can do VSS fulls. So if you have any applications running on those Windows servers, what we can now do is we will use VSS full, which will properly quiesce applications such as Exchange and SQL. What this means is that if I'm running the image level backups and I'm running SQL or Exchange, when it begins the backup process, it will quiesce those databases, properly give the blocks, and it will truncate the log as a part of a successful backup. So the VSS full will plug into the APIs of those applications and kick off the proper backup. It'll mark itself as being known as backed up. And when the backup is complete through the APIs with the VSS full, it will truncate the logs too. So if you have any issues with logs and you don't want to necessarily run snapshots or do the application level backup, you can use this instead. Very cool, very efficient, a great way. We recommend using this with a lot of new deployments if all else is even, just because it's simple to deploy, it protects much easier, and the recoveries are, especially bare metals, are even more simple. Nice thing is all file recoveries are available with the Windows image level backup, so everything you're used to can still be done. It just gives you even more options for recovery. So that's what the piece I had about our things. I'm happy to show off if anyone wants to see anything or have any questions. But I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware. Those are the big 10.4 things. We'll have some more stuff coming out with 10.4 down the pipe, probably within the next few months. 10.5 probably later on this year, but major changes coming down the way, and we've already done so much last year, and looking forward to see what stuff we make even better this coming year. Connect IT Local. We have some local events. Unitrends has over 40 Connect local events along with our Kaseya partners. So if you want to check out and get an in-depth admin training course, we're offering UCA, or we're offering information on different cybersecurity. Check them out. January 23rd, we're in New Orleans. January 30th, we're in Long Beach, California. So if you're if you're located near any of those places, come check us out. Really cool events. Been to a few myself, and I find them very useful and helpful, and maybe I'll see you at some of them. On top of that, we have our global events. Our Connect IT Global will be in Vegas, May 4th to the 7th. We also have Connect IT Europe, if you're located out there, in Amsterdam, October 20th to 22nd. And lastly, we've got Connect IT APAC in Melbourne. That'll be November 18th to the 20th. So with that, that's actually most of the content. That's really everything about 10.4. If anyone has any questions, I don't see any right now, Max, unless I'm looking incorrectly. But I'm happy to hang out for a few more minutes, see if anything else comes up, and we're happy to address them as is.
Perfect. Yeah, it seems that there are some just comments from people. People are saying that these are really great features, and that they have been waiting on them. So please, folks, feel free to send us questions, on these new features, and Jordan is here to answer them. So, Jordan, did you want to touch base on, when it comes to hot backups, and the hot backup copy targets, and how to add, one or more targets to a single source appliance? I mean, I think that's the main feature, right?
Yeah, that was the big feature that came out with 10.4, and a good thing we did. So basically, here's what you can do now. We have a lot of customers at multiple locations, and they're geographically independent enough that they don't necessarily need DR as a service. So they're perfectly happy doing their own disaster recovery. The issue is, with long-term retention, they still don't want to rotate hard drives off-site. So I'm going to see the most common use case we will see for using fan out is we'll see customers sending the data from site 1 to site 2, being their DR site, and then doing long-term backup, kind of keeping the long-term backups in our cloud, and that would be using our Forever Cloud. So you can do just Forever Cloud and do disaster recovery kind of manually. That provides a great way to really get the best of both worlds. Hey, I don't have to worry about the storage. It's a really simple economic model from Unitrends for keeping all my archival pieces, and I can send everything to DR site, so if something happens, I can send it to that DR site. All the features still will be available, so if, for example, you were to lose both sites, sadly, we still can seed an appliance, ship that to you with all the backups on there, and you'll be good to recover. So trying to provide really the best of both worlds is really the goal that Unitrends is striving for here. Great question.
Perfect. Now, is there anything about application aware option? To run image level backups.
Yep. So that's this piece here. Yeah. So with any application that's integrated with VSS Full, two great examples are SQL and Exchange. When we run those backups now using the block backup, these will be able to properly quiesce them, get them in an app consistent state rather than a crash consistent state, which means less likely to have corrupted backups when you're trying to recover them, corrupted databases, and you can move on with your life and allow recovery to be much more efficient.
Okay, perfect. So we do have a few questions as well coming in.
Yep, I see some coming in.
One is, will some KB steps be put out on how to convert existing backups um, to long-term retention plans?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely. So here,
yeah.
it's a great question. So actually in our admin guide, I'm going to show you right here, you can go to long-term. You can actually see the long-term retention. You can configure it right within here. It's going to tell you how to walk through going through that. Alternatively, right here within the interface, you're going to go to your configure, protected assets. So these are the assets I'm protecting. And you can actually just check off the pieces you want, and you manage the retention right from within here. And it's just simply adding a new retention policy. You come right in here, you shift over to LTDR, and this is where you can add these pieces. Be careful though, with no longer doing first in, first out, if you move over to long-term data retention, it will prioritize retention over room for NOR backups. So if you have an appliance that runs out of space, it will not run new backups, whereas traditionally with a first in, first out, I'll make room to run the new backup. So be careful, make sure you're monitoring your storage if you do move over to LTDR. But great question.
All right. Yeah, we have another question here, and it does Guessing or Crescent use VSS?
Quiescing.
Okay. Yeah, and can you elaborate more how it works?
Sure. So it's using the volume shadow copy services. So Unitrends just leverages what's already built into Windows. There's multiple levels of VSS. That we were traditionally using the VSS copy, which doesn't necessarily provide an application consistent. What we're doing is the VSS full is automatically built into our image level backup. So the image level backup will run, and built into that image level backup is the VSS full. So it'll take a full backup of it from the VSS, which means it'll properly quiesce and back that up. So hopefully that helps elaborate. If you have more questions, we can happy to dive into that too.
Yeah, the other one has to do with that too, right? It seems Sam mentions that it sounds like you're recommending VSS full followed by file interval backups, SQL transaction log backups, and Exchange log backups. And he says, "Am I understanding that correctly? What about Linux service?" And he says that he's in a mixed environment. So
great question. So Sam, there's no just like there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. I hope they don't come after me. There's no right way necessarily. I don't say there's no wrong way to do a Unitrends backup. There's so many different ways, and every environment's going to be different. So what happens is it really depends. So for your Linux servers, you can't do the image level protection. In that, you will need to use the combination of our file level backup, or if it's a VM, the snapshot backups. These specifically using the image level protection is for Windows servers, usually physical servers. If it's a virtual, if it's a virtual server, we tend to use the hypervisor backups. I'm not saying there's a direct hierarchy. The reason why there's no wrong way is because it totally depends on the different applications, your recovery plan, and what you're trying to back up. Our default tends to be hypervisor backups followed by Windows image level followed by file level agent. Application level backups can come at any point depending on how and what you want to do with the recovery. I've seen no outstanding one way or the other to necessarily get those. That's a good question to ask. Just so you know, the VSS full is a part of our backup process. You don't need to run a separate VSS full. Just make sure that's clear that it will be run right within ourselves.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, the other question also has to do with that, and the question is, does it lock the data for any time?
Any quiescing is going to have some kind of impact. Usually, what I tend to see with quiescing is the main database is locked while all new writes go into the log, and then that flushes down once the backup is complete for that part of the database. I don't want to say whether or not it will lock or not lock the data, but I've noticed our image level backups have seen very little impact. But any type of backup you're running, whether it's a maintenance job backup, a VSS backup, or a snapshot backup, all have some impact to performance, and that's just necessary. No matter what, if you're in a Formula One race, you got to stop the car to change the tires. It's that kind of concept. So there will be some semblance of an impact, but it's pretty minor from what I've seen, especially with the image level backup. Great questions.
Okay, I believe this one is also related to that. So the question is simply, should be used during the working hours?
It can be. Obviously, it really depends on the application. I don't want to tell you one way or the other. I've seen some people that will only run one backup a day, and they'll do it overnight and let that run. I've seen some where if it's a small environment, a small server, they can run it. It's really one of those you kind of have to test and see the impact, hope ideally in a test environment to know what that would look like. I don't want to tell you definitively, yes, do it this way, or no, don't do it that way.
Gotcha. So the other comment is he says, I understand the Unitrends appliance is necessary for backups and recovery. In a full DR, we are concerned that the appliance could be overloaded restoring servers. So the question is, could we back up and restore via USB, separate from the Unitrends appliance, for example, recovering workstations?
So looking if you can get an ISO and recover that way. That's a really good question. I think I kind of want to see, I'm going to need a little more specifics about which way. In terms of putting an image on a USB, we have some ways that we can burn ISOs onto disk, so that could be done to USB. I'll be honest though, the appliance could do a pretty good job of recovering a lot, but it will tend to be sequential. Workstations is a hard example though, and the reason why I'm not trying to be flippant, I'm trying to think the best way to answer that. Workstations would tend to be golden images, so it depends on how you're backing up workstations. If I have multiple servers, yeah, there will be a priority queue for that. And if you're looking to do multiple recoveries, you could use a virtual appliance, archive off some of the backup jobs, and then import them to virtual appliance and run recoveries from there too. So there's kind of multiple ways you can do those recoveries. But as understandable, yeah, if I'm doing a network boot of 100 different servers, that could have an impact. And that's why we tend to say during those recovery scenarios, focus on DR and then have your recovery allow to take some time. So your DR should be kind of standby, and anything that would take time for the recovery, you can't put into replicas. Anything that can take time, prioritize down. That's kind of our approach, but it's kind of hard. I hope you understand. It's a little hard for me to say definitively this way or that, but that's how that's what customers tend to do and what we tend to see. It's a great question.
Perfect. If anybody has any other questions, Jordan is still here to answer them. Just keep sending it to us. So Jordan, can you tell us a little bit about faster SQL and Exchange backups? How do these new features on this new version, how do they affect that?
It just makes it that we do the backups with the image level backup. It just gives you more flexibility in what types of backups you can do. So instead of traditionally, you had to either do VM snapshots with AppAware or use the application direct backups or use the maintenance job backups, you now have a fourth option where now within the image level backup, we can back it up. So it's just adding more flexibility for all those environments. We tend to see better performance with this, but it's really all about what makes sense in each environment. So it's really just providing more options for our customers so that they can use whatever technology is going to be best for their protection and recovery.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't see any other questions. It seems that this is a feature that a lot of people have been waiting for. So we are going to end the presentation and the session right now. We wanted to thank everybody for participating with us. We'll send the presentation to everybody that participated and people that registered and missed and couldn't be here today. So stay tuned, and if you guys have any other questions, just get in touch with your account manager or with Jordan, and we are available to answer you guys and help you guys with whatever you guys need. So I wanted to thank everybody for participating with us today, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you, Jordan.
No, thank you, everyone. Take care, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.